Hi guys, it's Aoife from Words of Clover and I'm here to talk about my worst books that I read in 2022. Luckily, I didn't have a really terrible reading year. There weren't that many books that I felt deserved to be on this list. So I actually only have 5 books to talk about that either were just really bad books that I read or books that just really disappointed me in various ways. So I'll get on straight into it. Talk about a book that I read, I think at the start of the year, Getting You by Coleen Hoover. Now, I know Coleen Hoover is a well-loved author, as I said at the time of my wrap-up, and I genuinely don't understand why. After reading this book, I think it was just so badly written. We're kind of following a woman whose husband dies. Her husband and her sister die in this car accident. She is kind of trying to figure out what she could, how to move on with her life. She's been with her husband since she was a teenager. They had a relationship as teenagers, and she fell pregnant as a teenager. So she's literally lived her entire life with her husband, being a stay-at-home mom, and she has never really done anything that she really wanted to do. This an old friend of hers is kind of back in her life, and we see how, this romance, kind of like a second chance romance, blossoms between the two of them as well. And we're also getting the storyline of her daughter, who is also going through her own teenage angst and has a boyfriend or a boy that she likes, and is kind of trying to deal with the death of her dad as well. And there's just a bunch of stuff happening with her. But this book was just so badly written. The writing was just so basic. I just couldn't understand it. I thought there was nothing exciting, there was nothing remarkable about the story in any way whatsoever. Every single thing that happened in this book was so predictable. Nothing, as I said, was exciting. Nothing shocked me. There was no twists or turns in any way. It was just so boring and so basic, and I was absolutely shocked that this is the Coleen Hoover that people talk about. I just thought it was such a badly written book. And then I also thought that she had such a great opportunity in this book to have this character who suddenly has all these options open to her to be able to go to college or go and do a course and do find what she really wants to do in life other than being at home and being a wife and a mother. She has this chance to go out and do something else, either finding a job that she really likes and excelling in, or doing a course, or finding a hobby or something like that. And I would have loved this kind of rebirth in a way of this character, and see her gain confidence and do something great for herself. But instead it just all revolved around this crappy, boring romance. And yeah, it was just so bad. It was really bad. Definitely the worst book I read this year. Next book that I really didn't enjoy is a book that I read because I was reading the shortlisted Irish book. It was for the Irish Book Awards of 2021, and it was the Novel of the Year shortlist. And this is the only reason I read this book, and that was The Echo Chamber by John Boyne. And this book, from literally from the start to the finish, I was just I really am not enjoying this book. And I have previously really enjoyed John Boyne's writing, but I just think everything that he was trying to do in this book, I just really hated. In this one, we are following, it's more or less a satirical book, and we are following a family who the dad is a famous TV presenter. I think he's kind of styled a little bit in the way of say someone like Piers Morgan. The wife of the family is this famous author, but she hasn't written her own books in years. And then they have 3 children who are all just kind of absolute sad sacks in their own way. There's this the daughter who just wants to be a famous influencer, and then she has troll accounts where she trolls her own family and other people to make herself feel better. There is a teenage one of the teenagers who I'm pretty sure is possibly gay and in the closet, and is afraid of coming out, and then he wears uniforms of different jobs to try and make himself feel better. So he'll just go around in a police uniform or an army uniform when he's trying to talk to people to make himself feel confident. And then you have the younger boy who is really good looking. He's only 17, but then he ends up he basically tricks older men into going on dates with him, and then reveals himself to be underage, and then he blackmails these guys for money. And it's really horrible. So the entire family are just really horrible. And then we see the dad of the family get into trouble for non-PC things that he says, I think on Twitter. And we see him be attacked by the generation of snowflakes and stuff like that. This social media brigade and trying to take him down. And basically this whole book, I really feel, was John Boyne's response to when he himself has been called out for things that he has either said or done that people have felt like haven't been right. So like I think particularly like his book, he has a book about with a transgender character, and I think it has been critiqued for not being particularly like well written or well researched, or a particularly like good um story about being transgendered. And then there's a lot of controversy obviously around the Boy in the Striped Pajamas and then the sequel, and then he himself as well has been like a big defender of people like J.K. Rowling as well online. So I think this book was basically just a massive response to all of this, and I just think the way he did it was just really not good. And yeah, I just really hated everything about this book. It just made me feel like gross. I was just like, yeah, I just was really turned off by everything. I thought the characters were ridiculous. I thought the storyline was ridiculous. Yeah, I just don't think it was done very well at all. And it was just, I just thought it was a little bit embarrassing. So yeah, I really didn't like this one. The next book I didn't like was We Are All Birds of Uganda, and this is actually one that really disappointed me. I really thought I would really like this, and this is a book that definitely there were some parts I did like, that it taught me some history, like world history, that I never knew about. We are following a character who is his parents are like Ugandan Ugandan Pakistani or Ugandan Indian immigrants, and they are living in the UK. He's grown up in the UK and he is a lawyer, and he has this like high flying job. He's doing really, really well, and he's told that he has been put up for this like promotion where he's going to be able to move to Singapore. And his parents are really, really against this. They don't even like him being a solicitor. They want him to move back home and be a part of the family business and live with them, and like basically where he would be in complete, his father would be able to completely control his life from right down to like his finances, and like, you know, he wouldn't even have his own bank account and stuff like that. And he's really struggling to kind of, you know, tell his family that this, like, you know, no, he wants to be a lawyer and he wants to go to Singapore and stuff like that. And then he ends up going on holiday to Uganda, where he goes to where his family, where his father would have grown up, and where his grandfather you know, lived like basically all of his life, and had a business, and they have like this really big history in Uganda. And he finds out about his family's history there, and we learn a lot as readers about the history of Asian population who moved to Uganda, and kind of the like, you know, the way they settled there, and then how so many of them ended up being kicked out after there was a lot of unrest. There's a lot of racism. There's like racism from the like Indians towards the Ugandans, and then there's racism like from the Ugandans towards the Indians as well. And we see that, all of that in the book, and it was like that I thought was really interesting. But then when he goes to Uganda, he decides that he falls in love with this woman, and he kind of decides that he wants to move to Uganda and start his own business there. And I was like, okay, that's grand, but like a minute ago you wanted to be a lawyer and go to Singapore, and then suddenly he wants to be a business owner in Uganda, and then we just see him change his mind like really, really quickly. But then there was like, he didn't actually get to Uganda until like so far into the book that I just felt it was really slow, and then it was like really, really quick, and I just thought the pacing was really, really bad. And the way this book ended as well, I remember I think it just ended on this kind of like ominous, weird note that I just really, really didn't like. I just thought the main character was just a little bit of like, you know, a wet sock. He just wasn't really like, I just didn't really get him. I just thought he flip-flopped between decisions and messed things up with his own life and other people's life way too easily. And yeah, I just didn't really like him at all. Then the next book I have on this list is the second last book, and that is The Bookshare by I think it was Phaedra Patrick that wrote this book. And this is a book where we're following an older character. I think she's in her early 40s, not too old, so like, you know, middle-aged character. And she is a cleaner for her favorite author in the world. And then one day this author disappears, and she ends up being tasked with finishing the author's last book of her like really famous series. And she's like, I don't know how to do this. So she ends up kind of looking into the author's life, and like all the loves she had in her life, to try and figure out how to finish the book. And I don't know why you would need to know about the author's life to be able to finish a story about a fictional person, but hey ho, this is what the book tried to do. And yeah, it was just a bit crap, to be honest. I think I described this as Poundland Evelyn Hugo in my original review, and I still stand by that. I think this tried to do with Evelyn, like what the Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo did really, really well, and it just did it really, really badly. And I just thought, yeah, the main character was fine, but I just didn't really believe in her. Like, first of all, the excerpts of the stories that she loved that are like these like world famous stories were really, really bad. And it was like embarrassing. I was like, how are we supposed to believe this is like a best selling book or a best selling series? And then the fact that she was like writing this book and like literally no one knew except like not even the publishers or anything knew. I was like, this is just so like unbelievable. There's so many bits in this that I just can't understand at all. And then the main character, her relationships in her own life, like her family situation. So her relationship with her husband was just kind of like bad, and I thought they just had like a really horrible dynamic between the two of them. And then her relationship with her sons as well, like there's points where like she has to bring her son to work because he can't stay at home on his own because he broke his leg, but he's like 18 years old, and I was like, I'm pretty sure an 18-year-old can stay at home on their own. Like, it was just like real stuff like that, and I depended on her for everything, and I was just like, oh my god, like grow up. So yeah, this was pretty bad and I didn't really like it. And then my last book on this list is definitely one, probably the most disappointing book of the year for me, and that is Haven by Emma Donoghue. Emma Donoghue is one of my favourite writers. I normally love, either really, really like or love most of the books that she has written that I've read. This one I just was so boring, and yeah, I just really, really didn't get on with this one at all. We are following, this is like very, very early on in Irish history, with the Catholic Church in Irish history, and we are following three monks who travel away from their monastery, and they travel towards Skellig Michael, which is an island off the coast of Ireland, and they found a monastery there, and we're kind of following their early days on this island, trying to figure out how to, create like a monastery there and survive on this island that is pretty uninhabitable for humans. Didn't really like how the story went. I didn't like how the religious aspects of it as well, kind of the rituals and the mass and stuff like that. I just for some reason just really, really bored me. And then there was a lot in this book that for some reason I actually found really hard to read, and that was the fact that they killed so many of like the puffin birds on Skellig Michael. Just reading about them being killed like so much like really got to me, and particularly because they kept killing the babies for like the fat in their to use like for oil, and it just really upset me, and I just didn't really like it at all. Just like the continued description of them killing the birds, I really didn't like, which is one of these weird things about this book that really turned me off. The story just really didn't do it for me at all, and I know I'm not alone in that. It's definitely just one of her flop books, unfortunately. So yeah, really didn't enjoy this one, and yeah, it was a real disappointment because I really was hoping I would love it. So yeah, those are some of the worst books I read in 2022. Thank you guys so much for watching as always, and I'll see you guys again next time.